to be talking about the language of Dutch. Now, yes, Dutch, it's not even as popular as German, but we're going to talk about it anyway because because I just want to mention some of the controversial facts. So, so to begin with, I'm actually a Dutch language learner, so I'm actually learning Dutch, but we're just basically going to start with pros and cons and, how, when they hear of even the word Dutch, what is the first thing they think in their mind? So let's just begin with the fact that, shall we? So the first thing I hear often is that Dutch is a hard language to learn. Well, it's not, I would say that it's not super, super hard. I mean, because, it's Germanic, but the Germanic fact has nothing to do with how easy the language is. The language itself is not super, super hard. For example, if you're talking about Danish is a Germanic language, but the way you pronounce things is hard. I would say Danish has the hardest pronunciation out of all the languages, but I don't know that for a fact. Anyway, so Dutch isn't super, super hard, but if you're talking about the way you pronounce things, the way you pronounce your alphabet and stuff, it's not that hard at all. So, I think why most people say Dutch is a hard language to learn is they're basically talking about sounds. Yes, you do have sound. There are, I will admit, there are even as a learner, there are sounds in Dutch that are that are hard, that can be a little difficult for English speakers, but it gets easier with a little bit of practice. So I think one sound in Dutch that English speakers find hard is the G sound and CH, because it doesn't sound the same as English. But if you've learned French or Gaelic or any other language with that kind of guttural sound, it's not that hard. I've taken French, I've learned Irish, Gaelic, and stuff like that, and it's totally not that hard at all, because if you're used to making that hairball sound, then the G sound in Dutch is not that hard. So for those of you who don't already know, the G sound in Dutch is a sound, so it's not like the regular G sound in English, it's a H. So that's what I call it the hairball sound. But really, you can call it whatever you want, a guttural sound, a hairball sound. I call it the hairball sound. But it's really guttural, it's rough, it's just unusual to English speakers, and I think that's what intimidates speakers when they try to learn the language. But the pro to that is that the pro to Dutch is that if you guys have ever learned German, Dutch is a language that's in between German and English. But if you guys have ever learned German, Dutch is, I guess, German is really intense. If you've ever heard Hitler speak, or if you have ever learned German yourself, or heard just regular spoken German, it's very intense. Dutch isn't as intense as German, yet some, vocabulary when you're talking about plurals and singulars and stuff sound very similar to German. So I'd say, Dutch is a little easier. Well, Dutch is like learning German, but it's easier. So it's definitely easier to learn compared to German. And I just think that the regular sounds Another thing that really it's really difficult for English speakers is some vowel sounds. Sometimes you have vowels that are mixed together that are called diphthongs. You've got those, and those also, I think, are some sounds that really intimidate English speakers. But I would say, like, if you're talking about grammatically and structurally, it's not that hard. Some of the words, if you, like, even I've experienced this myself, but some of the words, or even sentence structures in Dutch are very, like, strangely familiar to English speakers. So, some sentences can be really easier for you to master compared to others, because you've got English to relate to. Others are similar to German. Grammatically, I would say structurally, some of the vocabulary is very similar to what you hear in English. So, I'd say, as an English speaker, learning Dutch is not that hard at all. Like, I've only done like a bit of it, and it's not that hard. Like, I've just been learning the sounds of the alphabet. It's a little hard, like, it's a little difficult, but with a little practice, it gets easier and easier. And I think that's just with every language. Remember that phrase, practice makes perfect? It really fits in well. I guess another downside to Dutch is that most people from the Belgium and Netherlands speak fluent English. However, it's still good to learn the language, because you're showing basically respect for the country, respect for the people, respect for everything. And really, it's all about, like, if you just, I would say, like, if you're really stuttering, I mean, that could be a problem, but other than that, I'd say definitely try and learn the language, because it's something that it's definitely try and learn the language because it's something that it's something that might kind of be a little easy on you if you're kind of thinking of learning a Germanic language. Like, yes, you will. I mean, you won't have that much opportunity to speak, especially if your Dutch is bad. But I would say just go ahead, because you never know what to expect later. I don't usually do videos like this on my channel because I don't really specialize that much in language, but it's just an idea that I had in my mind, and I thought I'd do a video about it.